time. Time to pick every spread and every total for Week 16 of the NFL season. Welcome, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and all of my degenerates. It's Mitch here to pick every spread and every over-under for NFL Week 16, breaking down every game, every matchup, and giving you not just picks, not just predictions, but spoilers for Week 16. If that sounds good, don't forget to spike the like button, show your love, it's free, and subscribe to Money Mitch for weekly NFL picks and best bets. If you're wondering, Mitch, where can I get all of your bets? Well, the place to go is Patreon. Link in the description. Just $5 a month for all of my NFL bets every week of the season. That includes the playoffs, every playoff game, and the Super Bowl. If you want to support me, my content journey, and get some picks and some bets along the way, then Patreon is the place to go. Link in the description. Let's get started with every pick for Week 16. We begin Thursday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks host the Los Angeles Rams. This total has been hammered down from 44 to 42.5. Maybe some expectation of precipitation, potentially a little rain in Seattle. Now, weather reports are going to be inconsistent. There might be rain before the game, and it might die off in the first quarter. There might be rain through halftime. Who knows with rain when it comes to playing in Seattle? But that could affect the passing game of each team. Matthew Stafford in particular is not a great quarterback in the rain. And I do think that there has to be a reason why this game has been hammered towards the under. Now, this could also have to do with potential injuries. Davante Adams is officially doubtful for the game on Thursday night. He's been a big part of this Rams vertical attack, red zone attack, and maybe the Rams struggle a little bit more near the end zone to put the ball in the end zone, and it results in a couple more field goals than usual because Seattle's very good against the run. The Rams may struggle to run the ball as consistently as they typically do, and without Davante Adams to take advantage of one-on-one matchups in the red zone, it's going to be Puka and the tight ends or bust. So that could play a factor. Otherwise, the Rams are very healthy, and there's nothing really noteworthy to go over injury-wise. There's another big injury, though, Charles Cross, the tackle of Seattle, which also could have a major role in terms of point production in this game. Charles Cross, for my money, is the best Seahawks offensive lineman. Their rookie Gray Zabel's been very nice this year, but I would still give that nod to Charles Cross. Without him, there will be pressure from Jared Verse pretty consistently in this game, and he did not practice the latest we've heard. And as far as I'm concerned, if you don't practice on a Wednesday for a Thursday game, it's probably unlikely that you play on a Thursday. It's not looking great for Charles Cross. That's a difference maker. I think both these injuries are massive for how the offenses will run and produce. I will say that I don't think Charles Cross is as important for the Seahawks as a lot of other passing games. And the reason I say that is it's not like Seattle is particularly great at throwing the football in drop back situations anyways. I think they're going to flat out lose that battle regardless, because I think the Rams can get pressure regardless. But Seattle is more of a play action based offense and play action based passing game, and play action based passing games, they don't ask a lot from their offensive linemen, and they can have chip help and block and release players, tight ends. So I expect a lot of usage from the backs and the tight ends in terms of getting hands on Jared Verse or impacting his rush or Byron Young, etc. But I think that that's where Seattle is most confident. I would only expect Seattle to lean more into the run game if Cross is out of this game. Now, it certainly does have an impact, but I would make an argument that if Seattle is going to win this game, it's more going to be based on their defense than anything else. This is a real coin flip of a game. Talking about it, I do kind of feel like these two teams were always meant to split this year. And I don't know, just like I talked about the Bills and Patriots, I don't know if I should persuade myself to take the Rams just because Charles Cross is out. I've kind of had the feeling that the Seattle Seahawks were going to win this game all year, before the year, whatever it may be. It's a Thursday night, short week, primetime game without Devontae Adams. Their defense, which is stellar, is at home. They're coming off a little bit of a sloppy game, and I haven't really been impressed by Seattle all that much offensively lately. But I do feel like they should have won that first game. And I do feel like we got an indication of how they match up with the Los Angeles Rams from that first game. I thought they dominated the second half. And I thought the only reason they lost is because of the lack of ball security from Sam Darnold. 4 interceptions in a single game. And yet it still came down to a game-winning field goal attempt, which they missed. So I think at home plays a factor. I think it's hard to really understand how hyped the Seattle crowd will be for this game in this setting where it could put them in the lead for the NFC West. Yes, Seattle has been actually a better road team than a home team under Mike Macdonald, but I still think that just being away from the dome and being outdoors and playing in potential slippery weather with a slippery football, that plays a role against the Rams, who are pretty comfortable in a dome. And I kind of feel like Seattle gets their revenge here. I do. I like their special teams. I like their return unit. I love their kicker. I really love their defense. And I think their defense has a lot less holes than the Rams. I think the Rams are susceptible in the middle of the field to the passing game. I think they're susceptible in the secondary. I think if Seattle can hold up well enough up front, they can get some big plays down the field in play action. And if they can find a way to get an early lead, that's where their defense could take over. It will make the Rams less balanced, and it will allow their pass rush to really get after Stafford in a way that a lot of teams haven't been able to. The Lions were able to get the lead, but the Lions don't have Seattle's defense. So if they can flip that last game's result against the Rams on its head, and they're the team that gets the early lead, that's going to play a massive role in how they're able to protect their quarterback, run the football, manage the clock, that sort of deal. But I think that the Rams secondary is going to play a role here, where I think Sam's going to make some big plays to JSN, maybe a couple to Rashid Shaheed. I think Stafford will make his plays, Puka will make his plays, Parkinson, etc. But I just think Seattle's defense wins this game. I think at home, with maybe the weather on their side, maybe the turnover battle this time around on their side just due to luck, I think this is a game Seattle wins. It's not really, to me, a must-bet game because I think it's a flip of a coin. Seattle, to me, has the better running game. To me, Seattle without Charles Cross, I think the Rams have the better running game. I'm not sure if I said Seattle there. I can't keep track of my words sometimes. I speak so much. I think the Rams have the better offensive line. I think the Rams have the better quarterback, but I do think Seattle does have the better defense. I've been saying the Rams defense is a bit overrated, and I think Seattle does make some plays here, and I think they have the better special teams. I think they have the home field, and I think they'll be more equipped if the ball is slippery to play in those conditions. So I'm going to take Seattle in a divisional, tough, low-scoring football game. I'm trusting the better defense in this setting and Mike Macdonald to get his revenge on Sean McVay. At 42.5, I'm going to take the over, though. I think that's too low at this point. I think between the explosiveness of Seattle's offense, which they're very hit and miss offensively, it feels like they go drives where they're very slow, methodical, and they can't get anything going, but then they have like 2 or 3 drives in a row where they put up points and they put up explosive plays and they get chunks, right? So Seattle will put up their points. And then for the Rams, I think their offense is just too balanced, too hot, too consistent. For them to be held to anything under like 20 points would be pretty crazy. Like if the Seahawks held the Rams to like 17, I'd be surprised. So because I think Seattle wins this game, I think they win like 24-20, 23-20. I think 42.5. I lean towards just the slight over here where it's like a 23-20, 24-21 type of game. So I will take the over at 42.5. At 44, I was more considering the under, but now that the line has changed so drastically, that's a big move. I have to take the over, and I will take the Seahawks as the dog at home on primetime. I probably will bet this game slightly differently, though. So if you're looking forward to seeing what I do bet, I would definitely suggest checking out Patreon. I think I have a pretty good pulse on what's going to go down here, and I do have a good bet for this, but I'm not willing to give it away for free. So make sure you check out my Patreon. That being said, my spread pick will be Seattle, and my total pick will be the over. Okay. The Eagles and the Commanders on Saturday, 44.5 is the total, 6.5 is the spread. Now, I was kind of flirting back and forth with the total in my last previous primetime breakdown, which, guys, I am not like other channels. I almost never just slice up a video that I did previously to post it again. I always bring new independent perspective. A lot of what I say might be repeated, but I'll have a different approach on a different day and a different feeling on a different day with more information. Now that we're looking at it, Saquon Barkley, and this game's going to be played on Saturday, not Thursday like the previous game. So this is slightly different, but Saquon did not practice. Jalen Carter has not practiced. Landon Dickerson has not practiced. Fred Johnson has not practiced. Lane Johnson has not practiced. Now, from what I understand, those are the Tuesday practice reports. I will check in on the Wednesday ones in a second. When we look at Washington, Von Miller, I think's rest. Daron Payne did not practice. Bobby Wagner is probably rest as well. Eddie Goldman did not practice. So the Eagles have some substantial injuries. Saquon Barkley, Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter. That's 3 of their best players, and I talked about that on the primetime breakdown. Looking at the Eagles, I'm just going to search up their latest injury report. If I have anything for you at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, I will give it to you. So I see the Tuesday. Did not practice on Tuesday. Today, Saquon is practicing, according to one reporter. So he is practicing on Wednesday. Jalen Hurts was good to go. So that's good. I don't see any updated version of their actual injury report yet. Okay, wait. I got it. I think I got it. He did not practice, but okay, so I think Jalen Carter is still hurt. Lane Johnson is still hurt. It's tough to know, but I mean, that's a big thing. So I look at this and I've liked the Commanders all along. So it doesn't really change my side because I like the Commanders. So if Carter's out, which he hasn't played in a while, that's a big deal for stopping the run. We saw how they performed against Chicago's run game. The Commanders are really good at running the ball, right? That's the one thing they do very well. They give you the quarterback run game with Marcus Mariota. Chris Rodriguez looks like he'll be back for this game. That's pretty big for them. He's actually a solid running back. Then that offsets Bill as well in the backfield. Terry McLaurin is a vertical threat that you have to pay attention to. Quinyon Mitchell will likely shadow him for most of the game. You got the Debo trickeration. So I think that the Commanders can find ways to move the ball, control the clock, kind of take the Eagles off their game. What I don't trust about this matchup for Washington is how bad their defense is. I do like that they're at home here. I think Philly is a worse team on the road. I think Philly is a tough home field advantage. And I think we've seen Washington compete with better teams at home like Denver in a primetime spot. This is kind of a primetime game. So I think Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, this coaching staff will get the Commanders up for this game as a possible spoiler in this spot, just to kind of go off with their last great effort of the season, right? They're not really playing for anything, but I feel like there's a little bit of motivation there. But I think the Eagles are beat up. They kind of just want to survive this game, and they want to just, win the game, but I don't think they're worried about sort of putting up a number on the Commanders. I think it's actually going to be difficult to do that because the Eagles don't look great or fluid or consistent on offense. To me, I like getting the extra point or two that you get when Jaden Daniels is out and Marcus Mariota is in, because I think Mariota's outperformed Jaden Daniels this year. So there's always kind of value on the Commanders. It's a division rivalry. They've seen each other 3 times last year. The coaching staffs are familiar. What I don't like about Washington is how bad their defense is. The potential man-to-man coverage that might allow Jalen Hurts to hit some downfield throws to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I thought Dallas Goedert had a really good game last week. But that run game for the Eagles has been inconsistent. Saquon is now kind of beat up. Don't know how much they're going to be able to rely on the run game. If Dan Quinn just has a somewhat smart game plan in this one and tests Jalen Hurts, I feel like the Commanders can stay within a score here. I am fading the Eagles. I'm not a fan of this Eagles team. I'm not a fan of their coaching staff. I'm not a fan of Jalen Hurts. It's a division rivalry. I'll take the points. 6.5. 44.5. I actually lean over because I don't really trust the Commanders' defense. And without Jalen Carter, I like the Eagles' defense quite a bit, but I think it's a much better unit that when they're at home. I think when they go on the road, it's a little bit different. I think the Commanders can move the ball a bit. So even if it's just from a backdoor perspective, I think they can move the ball a bit. So I will take the over 44.5. I will take the Commanders plus 6.5. Let's call it 27-21 Philadelphia. Something like that, I think could go down on Saturday. Next, not my favorite pick of the week, but I don't hate it. Saturday night, I do like this game quite a bit, as discussed on the primetime special. I like the Bears here, and I do want to learn about what's going on with Christian Watson. He did not practice on Tuesday. He was limited on Wednesday. I have him in multiple fantasy leagues, so he's my guy. I love that guy, but I do feel like he's more tilting towards not playing, even if he is limited right now. I think the Packers would be wiser to hold him out maybe for a week, but this is a big game. I mean, if the Packers do lose this game, they're pretty much lost for the NFC North, are they not? This is a highly influential game with where the Bears are at. They would have to hope that the Bears lose to Detroit and San Francisco back-to-back for the Packers to even have a chance at the division, if I'm not mistaken. So they might force Watson out there, but there's no Micah Parsons, and it is somewhat of a short week, and the Packers are having to adjust their identity defensively without their best player on defense. When looking at the injuries, Evan Williams, their safety, who is a very underrated player, did not participate. Lucas Van Ness, limited, but still has not been out there for a while. Zach Tom did not participate. Jaden Reed did not participate. That's interesting. And Marshawn Lloyd, who cares? Josh Jacobs did not participate either. This is Wednesday's report, I believe. This is Wednesday's report because I think Jaden Reed practiced on Tuesday. Maybe he's resting. I'm going to check that out. I did see today that Josh Jacobs did not practice. So yeah, 2 hours ago, Jaden Reed went from, okay, it was personal, so that's fine. So he'll be back. That's fine. Evan Williams hasn't participated on either day. That's a pretty big deal. Zach Tom is a big one. He hasn't participated on either day. That's a big deal. And Josh Jacobs hasn't participated on either day. That's a big deal. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of think the Bears are the side at this point. I mean, I don't know. This is too much to overcome, I think, if you're the Packers. When you look at the Bears, Yeah, a couple receivers are missing, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden. But I do think Ben Johnson is a smart enough, savvy enough offensive coach. He's still got DJ Moore. Zacchaeus can play. Colston Loveland's a baller. He's got both his backs. Cole Kmet. So you look at the Bears, and I still think they can make plays, especially DJ Moore and Colston Loveland. So I'm not too concerned about Roma Dunze or Luther Burden. It would help, but I don't think it's a massive deal. When you're talking about Micah Parsons, best defensive player, you're talking about Zach Tom, and already Elgton Jenkins is out. So that's your two best offensive linemen. Christian Watson's your best receiver. Tucker Kraft is your tight end. I mean, those guys are all hurt. Josh Jacobs hurt, might not play. So all these guys are very questionable. And even if they play, they're not 100%. We don't really know what we'll get from Watson. We don't really know what we'll get from Zach Tom. He might leave the game in the second quarter. So those things are big, big deals. I like the Bears here. I think they're going to win this game. I thought they were very impressive against the Packers at closer to full health 2 weeks ago when they were getting back Jaden Reed and they had Parsons and they had Watson and Love was playing at his peak form and they were at home and their defense at home is arguably the best in the league. So they go on the road. The Packers defense isn't quite as good. They don't have that crowd noise. They don't have that home field atmosphere with their pass rush. I think that really does aid them to play great defense. I think the Bears are going to be able to run the ball here. I think they're going to be able to, because they're running the ball, I think that's going to open up things down the field for Caleb Williams. And when Caleb does have a run game with him, he can be efficient. It doesn't force him to make mistakes in drop back situations where he's having to throw on 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. And as long as the Bears can avoid those situations against this Packers team, I think that they're going to be able to move the ball and do what they want through the air, on the ground, pick their mismatches in the secondary. Because there's no Parsons, you don't really fear their pass rush as much. The Bears do have a very good offensive line. I think that's maybe the best unit in this entire game is the Bears offensive line. Now that the Packers pass rush is not quite the same, the Packers offensive line is not quite the same. I think the Bears have the best unit in this game. I could make a strong argument Ben Johnson is the best coach in this game. I think that the Bears defense, yeah, it's not great. They don't have a great defensive line, but with the beat up offensive line of the Packers, with the beat up running back of the Packers, what is there with Christian Watson out? What is there really to fear here vertically down the field? That's going to afford you to sell out and stop the run game of the Packers. You're going to be able to be creative with blitzes up front to be able to rattle and get to Jordan Love. Like, I really like the Bears here. I think the Bears win this game. I think this is their game to lose. It's a big spot. And I would take the over 46.5 currently, but it does depend on the status of Watson, Tom. It's really hard to give you a pick. I will give you the over for now because it's Matt LaFleur, it's Ben Johnson. The first game went over with better defenses on the field, including Micah Parsons. With Parsons out, I think the Packers are not quite the same defense. They also don't have Devontae Wyatt. And it does look like it's more likely that Jacobs and or Watson play than, maybe a defender or two. So I kind of look at this game as the same sort of game as last time, but just flipped. I think the Bears win like 28-21 or 27-20. It's going to be a game like that. I think it's a touchdown type of game in my opinion. It's still pretty high scoring. It's going to feature colder weather, but I don't think snow necessarily. And I'll just go with the home team here who's healthier at this moment in time. The Packers are without key cogs and key players and key spots that really allow them to play their style of football. So, yeah, I like the Bears. I really like the Bears here. I can't. They're a dog, and to me, it doesn't really make sense. I think the Bears, at this current time, with these current injuries, are the better team. Let's get to Sunday. We've got the Buffalo Bills, -10. Bills at Browns. The total is 42. I will take the Bills on the spread. I will take the over. Maybe? No, I don't know. The under? I don't know. This is tough. Let me think about it. As you guys know, I kind of talked through my process here. But Dalton Kincaid did not participate. He played on Sunday. I don't remember him getting hurt. Deion Dawkins did not participate. Christian Benford was back at practice limited. Jordan Phillips did not participate. So interesting. It does appear that maybe those are some rest for the Bills players after a tough Patriots game. For the Browns, they have a lot of injuries. So Bitonio, Conklin on the offensive line. Myles Garrett didn't participate. That's likely to be rest. He's trying to pursue that sack crown. Tevin Jenkins did not participate. David Njoku, who didn't play last week, didn't participate. Dylan Sampson, who didn't play last week, didn't participate. Denzel Ward, that's a big one, didn't participate. I'm gonna look at that. So the Browns have been a little bit of an over team as of late. Their defense hasn't been stopping the run as well. And then their defense, their offense last week was atrocious, but they're a little bit better against Tennessee, and they were at home for that game. It doesn't, okay, let me see here. This is the update. See how many of these are rest. It doesn't appear that the Browns have many players that are rest related. Yeah, the Browns are so beat up. I mean, I think you have to take the Bills because of all these injuries, guys. Like, Denzel Ward is a calf. Sampson is a hand. Njoku is a knee. Jenkins is a shoulder. Conklin is a concussion. Bitonio is a knee. These are legitimate injuries. I think for the Bills, it's more so they're going to play, but they're kind of beat up. Denzel Ward says he's feeling better, but he's on the pre-practice injury report, isn't expected to practice. So it looks like he might play, but there's a lot of offensive injuries. So I guess I'll go with the under. Maybe the Bills defense has a really strong performance this week. You never know with the Bills defense. Some weeks they're really, really poor. Some weeks they're really, really good. I think in this case, there could be a potential of them moving that second half performance against the Patriots and really continuing that performance. Like, that's kind of my intuition, my gut feel, is that the Bills will carry that second half performance defensively against New England into this game and try to build on that against Shedeur Sanders and the Browns with half to very little of their offensive line, running backs missing, tight ends missing, no rhythm on offense, a terrible quarterback that they're playing against. They should be able to stop the run of the Browns, who without the offensive line, there's no real traction or movement up front. Then on the other side, I'm just expecting the Bills to play it pretty conservatively, run the football, protect the football. They probably won't be pushing the ball too much against this Browns defense, which is really the only way the Browns can win the game, is if they cause havoc. And the Browns defense is also kind of beat up. So this could really be like a 27-7 game or like a 30-10. This could be very much like that. I think very similar to the Bears game. Although the game is in Cleveland and the weather is likely to be pretty ugly. I definitely think it's going to be cold. I think I've heard about potential snow here, but it's definitely at least going to be cold. I'm going to check this weather just in case. But it does appear that, yeah, light snow could be and then wind as well. Yeah, I would go with the under. I would go with the under, especially with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback for one of the teams. And then the Bills are probably going to play like the Bears, where very conservative. So yeah, I'm going to go Bills -10. They also have a massive advantage in snow. Josh Allen's the best player in the snow in the league. There's nobody I would take over him in the league. So, and James Cook has proven to be great in that environment as well. So I'll take the Bills -10. 30-10 feels right. I'll take the under 42. Next, Chargers at the Cowboys. Don't believe I have this in the correct order, but this is a very interesting game, which I've considered betting. I do like the Chargers in some ways here. The spread is actually moved towards Dallas. The total is 49.5, which is pretty high. If anything, I would take the under. I actually think that this is a matchup that the Cowboys have a chance to stop the opponent because of how bad the Chargers' offensive line is. Like, the Chargers keep on winning, and they keep on winning against all odds. They're beating the Chiefs and the Eagles in back-to-back games where I thought they got completely beat up and dismantled up front on their offensive line. The Cowboys are a unit on their defensive front that they should be able to get to Justin Herbert with their interior pass rush. The Chargers' interior O-line features maybe the worst center in the league, and they just really can't, block anybody. So Herbert's going to be under a lot of duress, in my opinion. But if the Chargers are able to give some time to Justin Herbert, I do think Herbert's going to make a lot of plays vertically down the field against a really poor and simple Dallas secondary in the back end. I think that Dallas will probably take the approach of running the ball a lot more in this game against the Chargers. The Chargers are susceptible to the run, but they're extremely good against the pass. I think the last thing you want to do against the Chargers is put yourself in second and third and long. And I think even as good as the Dallas receivers are, currently George Pickens is in a bit of a mood right now, and things could go wrong. I also am unsure how, serious Dallas will take this game. They've been eliminated from the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Chargers are still playing for something like seeding, so to speak. So I would go with the Chargers to win the game because I think that they're currently in a better mindset. I also don't trust the Cowboys defense, and I don't really know what I'm going to get from the Dallas defense. Also, there's players popping up on the injury report like CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Guyton still not back, Deron Bland, Quinnen Williams, these guys that have been beat up in previous weeks that they might not be at 100%, and they might not be willing to push it to 100% in a game that's meaningless. Just think about where you would be at if you're an athlete, an NFL athlete making millions of dollars. You probably want to save your body for future years. 49.5. I do like the under, though, because I think the Chargers defense is very, very good. And I do think that they're very good against the pass, and they can offset the strength of Dallas's offense. I do think Dallas will look to run the ball. I do think the Chargers like to run the ball. I think both teams will look to slow the pace down, and meaning that's going to speed the game up. Slow the game down by running it, that speeds the clock up. That leaves the clock bleeding and running and milking, right? So I kind of I think I see a 27-20 kind of game. I don't quite see 31-28. I think with the current state of the Chargers O-line, the Cowboys can get a couple stops that they usually don't. I think with the current state of the Chargers defense, they'll get stops, especially in the red zone against Dallas, like Minnesota was able to. So I actually really do like the under. And then Dallas -2.5. I like the Chargers getting points because it could be a game that is maybe decided by 2. It could be a game that is very, very close, down to the wire, game-winning field goal type of game. And I do think the Chargers are the better team. They just have a really bad O-line. But that being said, the Dallas defense is an experience. I mean, they made J.J. McCarthy look like Peyton Manning. So, yeah, I'll go with the Chargers here. I do like the Chargers getting points. I think the wrong team is favored, to be honest. Next, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Tennessee Titans. Chiefs -3.5. Gardner Minshew is the starter. 37.5 is the total. It's hard to handicap this game with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and it now appears that the Chiefs are willing to rest and or hold players out of this game. That's kind of scares me. Tennessee, though, is really, really, really bad. So, it's hard to bet on the Titans. I will say I like what I've seen from Tennessee on offense the last couple of weeks. I think they've ran the ball really well against Cleveland and San Francisco. Cam Ward's made some big throws down the field, but this secondary and this defense is just absolutely lousy. The Chiefs' defense is also very, very good. They're not as good on the road, though, so that's something to consider. But you look at Trent McDuffie didn't participate, Rashee Rice didn't participate, Jawan Taylor didn't participate, Tyquan Thornton didn't participate, Jalen Moore, Leo Chanel. That's so many injuries, and then Mahomes is out. Do the Chiefs even really care? So I'll take the points with Tennessee +3.5. I honestly have no idea who's going to win this game. My gut kind of actually says Tennessee. I kind of liked how Tennessee played the last couple of games, and I do think they're just playing for more, and I don't think the Chiefs care, at all. When you're a championship pedigree team and you're expecting to be in the Super Bowl, you're expecting to play in the AFC Championship, when those expectations die, like literally are dead for you, you don't care to be out there. Like, sure, maybe Travis Kelce wants to put up a couple more 100-yard games before he calls it quits. But how many of these guys really want to go out there and risk their body and really go out there? Like, they're tired. They're done. Mahomes is done. Like, they don't want to be. Chris Jones, you think Chris Jones is going to be playing at 100% capacity? Probably not. Does he want to, like, deal with these big offensive linemen, blocking him in the run game? Not really, man. Like, he's going to be taking the extra snap off or two. Trust me. 37.5. Something tells me under, so I'll go with the under, but I don't know. This is not a bettable game, I would say. I'll go under 37.5. I will go Tennessee plus 3.5 as the pick here for the spread in total. The Bengals, 47.5 at the Miami Dolphins. Cincinnati -4. I'm disappointed Quinn Ewers is the starter, not Zach Wilson. I personally don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be anything at the NFL level. I do think Zach Wilson has more physical talent, and I would have been, excited to see him in a Mike McDaniel offense, and that's not what we're going to get. So it's going to be a really terrible Bengals defense against Quinn Ewers, and on the other side, it's probably a pissed off Joe Burrow after playing probably the worst game I've ever seen him play at the NFL level against a Miami defense that's kind of underrated, and they play hard, but with the current state of Miami's offense, we saw how that went for Pittsburgh. Like, Pittsburgh was just able to slowly but surely wear down the Dolphins' defense. The Bengals are pretty healthy in this game. BJ Hill didn't participate in practice. Charlie Jones, their returner. Noah Fant, one of their tight ends. But I don't think that any of those guys are in jeopardy to miss necessarily. Joseph Osai also didn't participate. That's a big one because he's actually been pretty good for them on the defensive line. Miami does not have an injury report currently because they played on Monday Night Football. I don't know if I've seen one yet. I'm going to check right now. But the main thing is that Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter and not Tua. And that's a pretty big factor, obviously. Tua is really bad, though. Like, I don't think people realize how bad Tua is. Now, I think he looked even worse than he is in the cold in Pittsburgh because he's not built for those conditions. But he is terrible. Like, he has been maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league this year. Miami has released an injury report. It looks like Jordan Brooks, he was really good against Pittsburgh, didn't participate on Wednesday. That's one to watch. Minkah Fitzpatrick got hurt against Pittsburgh. That's another one to watch. So for the defense, that really hurts. And the BJ Hill injury is an ankle. The Joseph Osai injury is an ankle. Funny that all of the injuries for the Bengals are all ankle injuries. I don't know if that's actually accurate or if that's just a way to say rest without saying rest. I don't know. That's interesting, though. A little shady, in my opinion, that every single one of their guys has an ankle injury. But okay, I'll take the Bengals in this game because I'm just going to go with Joe Burrow against Quinn Ewers. And I'm going to take a Joe Burrow off of embarrassing performance with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins against, I think, a corner group and a secondary group for Miami that is very susceptible. I think they don't have a lot of talent. Now, I do think they play hard and they play physical and they play fast. And I do think Anthony Weaver, their defensive coordinator, has done a great job. But I think they're extremely undermanned from a talent perspective. And I think Burrow, Chase, and Higgins will take advantage of that. And Mike Gesicki, revenge game as well. So it's nice weather. It's in Miami. It leads to points. The Bengals defense is absolutely terrible. I will take the over, I guess. I don't really trust Quinn Ewers to score many points. But I do think the Bengals can get to around 30 here. So I think there's a possibility for an over. I will take it for the video. I wouldn't bet it. I don't think we know enough about Quinn Ewers. But how much worse could he be than Tua? I don't know if he could be that much worse. I will take Cincinnati -4, though. I think that is potentially a bet, but we'll see. The New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints. 40.5 is the total. Saints are favored by 4.5. The quarterback for the Jets is going to be Brady Cook, who is a CFL quarterback. The only way you can go is the Saints. I'll take the under 40.5. I don't think that the Jets defense is as bad as they played against Jacksonville, but they are pretty bad. Post Quinnen Williams, they've had a tough time stopping the run and getting a pass rush. Post Sauce Gardner, they haven't been the same in the secondary. I do think that the Saints, Tyler Shuck is playing really, really well, but they don't have a run game, like, at all. They have very little balance. And now you look at Devin Neal's out. Vele's out, who's been a nice safety blanket for Tyler Shuck. They released Brandon Cooks. They traded Rashid Shaheed. Their receiving core is like nothing outside of Chris Olave. They have Taysom Hill as a gadget player, Jawan Johnson as their tight end, and their run game is going to have Audric Estime. Like, it's not a very talented Saints offense beyond their young quarterback. But defensively, I really think the Saints have a pretty solid defense. I think Brandon Staley has been very underrated this year. I think their defensive line is actually pretty underrated with guys like Carl Granderson and Chase Young and Brzee and Cameron Jordan. And I think they've played pretty well. DeMario Davis at linebacker, their young secondary is making plays and flying around. So I like the under here because I just don't know if the Saints have a ton of talent to really like put up 30 points on the Jets. And I don't think they'll need to push those buttons. I don't think they'll need to score and push the pace of 30, 31 points. I think the Saints can win this game 24-13. So I will take the under 40 and a half as the under. Then I'll take the Saints minus 4.5. I think they have the much better quarterback. I think they have the better coaching staff. And I think they have the better defense. So give me New Orleans at home in their building. The Vikings at the Giants. Minnesota minus 3. Total is 43.5. I really liked Minnesota until I saw that they have put a couple of key defenders on IR. And that makes sense. I mean, this team is not going to make the playoffs. So shutting down a couple players with injuries, to me, is not a bad idea, right? Like, Jonathan Grenard, they put Jonathan Grenard and Josh Metellus on IR, and that's a big deal, right? Like, those are good players. Jonathan Grenard is their best pass rusher. Josh Metellus is a good player. Dallas Turner, they're going to see more of Dallas Turner. I think that's kind of what they want. Jay Ward is another guy that they want to see more of. So some of the younger guys are going to see what they have, right? So I get that. I understand that. But from a betting perspective, that hurts, right? Javon Hargrave, Christian Darrisaw, Ryan Kelly, Brian O'Neill all didn't participate for the Vikings. Now we have to kind of see how serious those things are. For the Giants, Nunez Roches didn't participate. Kayvon Thibodeau didn't participate again. So he remains out. He's a big deal for their run defense. I'm still going to lean Vikings, and I will take the over 43.5. I actually kind of like the over because of the injuries to the Vikings defense and the guys that they're making inactive here. Jackson Dart and the Giants are very feisty, and as an offensive team, they seem to be able to put up really good garbage points. Even last week, I think the game finished 29-21 against the Commanders. I think JJ is playing really good the last couple of weeks, and against a defense that literally cannot stop the run, I think Kevin O'Connell, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, they're going to be able to run the ball. I think that's going to unlock some big plays down the field for Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and the Vikings offense. I don't know what the weather is going to be. I guess that is pretty big. It's in New York. It's not in Minnesota. So if it is really windy or raining, I would just completely stay away from it because I don't know how these quarterbacks will look in that weather. Okay, so it does appear that it's going to be sunny but cold. So that's good. So yeah, I would say that there isn't, a ton that's going to affect this game from a weather perspective. So that's good. Yeah, I would still like the over at 43.5. Because I think one of these teams is going to get into at least the mid-20s. I think the other team will get into the lower 20s potentially. I'm a little bit more scared about Brian Flores against Jackson Dart, but I think, like I said, I think the Vikings will probably have a decent lead, and then they'll let up a bit, and I think the Giants will be able to get some garbage points. But I do like the Vikings -3. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think that Brian Flores will be able to confuse Jackson Dart enough in key situations. They're really good in the red zone and third down. They have a lot of different blitzes to get home on the young quarterback. And I do think the Vikings are going to be able to aid their young quarterback by running the football extremely well against the worst run defense in the league. So I will take Minnesota. It does make me a little bit more antsy and a little bit more unsure with the Jonathan Grenard, Josh Metellus stuff, but I'll still take the Vikings. The Bucs and the Panthers in a big game. Tampa -3. 45.5 is the total at Carolina. Carolina is a better home team. They lost on the road at the Saints last week in a game that I thought they should have won, and they needed to win, and they let me down. There are some big injuries currently for the Panthers. Ekwonu, their left tackle, Damian Lewis, probably their best offensive lineman. Tetairoa McMillan also didn't participate. Tershawn Wharton, one of their key interior linemen, didn't participate. The Bucs, Levante David, didn't participate. He'll probably play, though. He's basically Superman. And it does appear the Bucs are very healthy entering this game. So that is good. Mike Evans will play. Chris Godwin will play. Dennis will be back, if that matters at all for the Bucs. I am going to look at these Panthers injuries because I think if the offensive line is really injured, that's going to dictate my pick. You know, I think Ekwonu and McMillan are day-to-day. Ekwonu has a knee injury. Damian Lewis is sick, so he should be fine. McMillan has a foot and an ankle. He's found a way to play the last couple of games. So the Bucs have a 10-day preparation period, a 10-day rest period. They got ahead of the Falcons. They let it slip. The Falcons have played the Bucs really well the last 2 years. The Kirk Cousins is undefeated as a Falcon against the Bucs. I think he's 3-0. And then in the game, the first week of the season, they were up on the Bucs, and the Bucs came back and won. So the Falcons kind of have the Bucs number. The Panthers don't. Like, the Bucs can beat the Panthers. That's a matchup that they've consistently won. And I think when you think about this matchup, can the Bucs stop the run? Because if the Bucs can stop the run, we kind of know that Bryce Young isn't good enough to carry this offense. Bryce Young isn't good enough to score the points necessary to win this game. The Panthers also don't have a great pass rush. Derek Brown is good, but other than Derek Brown, I don't know how much pressure they're going to get on Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans does consistently dominate the Panthers every single year, so that's something to take in account as well. And then just like the general vibe of the Panthers and the Bucs, to me, the Panthers, it feels like a team that let it slip against the Saints. The Bucs were absolutely pissed off after that game against the Falcons. Todd Bowles, he must have said about 8 F-bombs in his press conference. It was actually a new record. So I think I just lean towards Tampa. They win games like this. They seem to have the edge on the Panthers in recent years. From a general football perspective, I can see how the Bucs and Baker can move the ball through the air against the Panthers with a steady dose of the run to keep them balanced. While I feel like the Panthers, yes, the Bucs are susceptible to passing, but do I trust Bryce Young to be able to make those plays against Baker? I'm going to take Baker 100 times out of 100. I think the Panthers' run game will be slowed by the Bucs. So I will take Tampa. 3 is tricky because it's 3 and not 3.5. I'll take Tampa on the spread. I will take the over because I do not trust the Bucs defense enough for me to take the under. So I think this is like a 27-24, 27-23, 28-24 type of game. I will take Tampa Bay to bounce back in a big spot and win this game. Next, Jacksonville at Denver, a great game. Denver -3 at home, 46.5 is the total. I think I have to go Denver here. I don't know if this is a bet. Denver's coming off a big win over the Packers, which a lot of people are glazing them for. I kind of felt like a lot of that win had to do with the Packers getting injured in the middle of the game to two of their most important players on either side of the ball, Christian Watson and Micah Parsons. But the Broncos have consistently taken advantage of that. Josh Hines-Allen did not participate at practice. That's a big deal. That's really the only injury that I've seen that's going to play an impact in this game. I don't think Denver has many injuries at all, from what I know. Denver's at home for the 18th time this season. I do think I like the under 46.5. Denver has been a little leaky against the run. Like, I thought Josh Jacobs made some plays, and potentially Jacksonville, who has a strong run game. Travis Etienne's played well. They have a good screen game to kind of offset Denver's blitzing and over-aggression. But I do think that the Broncos pass rush and the Broncos secondary can stifle Trevor Lawrence and the drop-back passing game. I do think Denver has a clear edge defensively in their pass department, but the run and the screen game is where Jacksonville can make some plays. Similarly, on the other side, I think that Jacksonville is a blitz aggression team. I don't think Denver is going to be able to run the ball on Jacksonville. Very few teams can. That puts the ball in Bo Nix's hands. Now, that being said, Jacksonville is a blitz-heavy team, and Denver, I do think, is better against man than zone. I do feel like they can make some big explosives down the field in the pass game. So that's something to watch. I lean towards Denver because they're at home. I think they've proven more in big spots against better opponents. And I do think it's important that they win to get the number 1 seed. Would I be shocked if Jacksonville won? They can get a couple turnovers defensively. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. But I just think Denver's the better defense. I like Jacksonville as a defense, but I don't love Jacksonville as a defense. I think Jacksonville is the better offense, but I don't love how they necessarily match up in the passing game on big third downs and in big spots. I think there could be sacks. There could be panic interceptions from Trevor Lawrence. And I just think Bo Nix protects the ball better. I do think I like the under, though. 46.5 might be a good look. I will take Denver in this one. 3 is interesting. This could be another game that lands on this number. I could see like 24-21 here. So give me Denver and give me the under. Next, the Falcons and the Cardinals. This game matters for 0 reasons. I will take Atlanta, although whenever you seem to trust Atlanta to win a game, they lose, so who knows. But Atlanta, I think, is the more healthy team. I think both veteran quarterbacks are playing pretty well right now. I think the Falcons have much better balance. They're running the ball extremely well. Kyle Pitts is in contract mode, right? He's a free agent this offseason. He's about to get paid from really what he did against the Bucs. Drake London could be back. That will only help. And I do think the Falcons have the much better defense. I think that they have a pretty feisty pass rush. They're able to blitz, and I think that's a good matchup against Jacoby Brissett, a guy that doesn't deal with pressure particularly well. But I wouldn't advise betting this. I would say that I'll take the over because the Cardinals have been an over team. They've allowed 40 points like 3 or 4 of their last 6 games. Like, it's absolutely insane how bad their defense is. And they're really, really injured. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you look at this injury report, and you got Kelvin Beachum on the offensive line, Evan Brown on the offensive line. Then Marvin Harrison might be good to go, but then Paris Johnson, their left tackle, they've got offensive line injuries. That's going to hurt them. Then Max Melton, Josh Sweat, Jalen Thompson. Like, they've been a very, very, very injured team on really both sides, the offensive line and the defense. So I think the Falcons are healthier. The Falcons are playing better ball. The Cardinals are falling apart. I'll take Atlanta. Atlanta, at least, they don't have their first-round pick, so there's no reason to lose if you're the Falcons. Next, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Detroit Lions. Detroit is -7, and the total is 52. Ooh, 52 is a lot of points. But Detroit's defense has been really bad. Pittsburgh's defense has been up and down. They played well in the cold against Tua, but I feel like a CFL defense could play well in the cold against Tua. Looks like TJ Watt will be out again after the whole fiasco last week. Isaac Seumalo did get hurt, the offensive lineman for the Steelers, in the game against the Dolphins. He didn't participate, so that's a big deal. And then Nick Herbig also didn't participate. If he's out and TJ Watt's out, that's 2 injuries to the same position, and that keeps them pretty bare at that position. And for the Lions, their defense is very injured. Their offense is pretty healthy. That's kind of the story all the time. I think Detroit is the side here because I think they're going to be able to do what they want against Pittsburgh, especially if TJ Watt is out. I think that allows you to get the edge in the run game. Jahmyr Gibbs has probably been the best back in the league this year. He hits home runs after home run. And then Detroit has speed and guys that can separate, and the Steelers can't cover. They don't have the speed to cover Jameson Williams. I don't think they have a guy that can go toe-to-toe with Amon-Ra. Maybe this is a Jalen Ramsey type of matchup for them. But I'm not believing in Pittsburgh's defense. I've seen too many games where they're susceptible. If you can block them, which I think the Lions can, you can really make plays. And I think Jared Goff is going to have guys running wild all day long. And the Lions just put up 30 a game at home. It just feels like at home, in the dome, in the comfort for Jared Goff. He's playing 7-on-7 out there, and he's just ripping the ball everywhere. So I think they're going to be able to run it, throw it, balance, and put up whatever number they want. And then on the other side, Rodgers, is he going to be able to keep up? I would lean over because I think that he's going to have to keep up. And I think the Steelers' best approach in this game is to keep that Detroit defense on the field. That being said, Detroit can stop the run really well. And Pittsburgh, I don't think is going to have the lanes that they had on Monday night. I've been a little bit more impressed with Pittsburgh running the ball. But Kenny Gainwell, he's been really impressive. But I just don't think that the offensive line, especially if Seumalo is out, where they're going to be able to consistently move the Lions around and run the ball. And when you look at Detroit, they're stubborn in the back end of their defense. They play man-to-man, they play man-to-man, they play man-to-man. And the only real guy you're really threatened by is DK Metcalf. If you can slow down DK Metcalf, you can slow down this offense through the air. It's just going to be a bunch of Aaron Rodgers dink and dunk. I think in the second half, the Steelers will probably put up some points after the Lions have well established their lead. It will be like 24-10 at half. Then I think Pittsburgh will put up some garbage points. So I'll take the over 52. I'll take Detroit -7. I'd much prefer a 6.5, but I'll still take -7 because I think Detroit, this is a much bigger game for Detroit as well. When you think about this game from a stakes perspective, Pittsburgh, all they really have to do is beat Baltimore in the last game of the season. They don't have to win this game. If anything, I'd rest Nick Herbig. I'd rest TJ Watt. I'd get my guys ready to play in Week 18 for the game that really, really, really matters. For Detroit, they have to win or they're not making the playoffs. Like, this is a must-win game. So for me, this is a must-bet game. I'm going Detroit. Next, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Houston Texans. Geno, do not play, dude. Do not play in this game. You might die, okay? Like, they're not going to block the Texans in this game. I would not, if I was Geno Smith, I would not play this game. Like, the Texans might get 12 sacks in this game if they actually try. The Raiders can't block anybody, and they allow about 4 or 5 sacks a week. Imagine what's going to happen in Houston against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. The Texans, I felt like they were angry that they allowed 20 points last week, even though, it was mostly garbage points. That's the type of defense that they are, where it's like they're up 40-10 and they're still mad that they allowed a touchdown. So the total is 38. I actually am going to go over because I think the Texans are going to score in this game. Like, I like CJ Stroud, how he's playing. I think the Raiders, other than Max Crosby, don't really have a great pass rusher. I think the Texans can do a serviceable job at protecting CJ Stroud. I think Nico Collins should have another massive game. I like how Dalton Schultz is playing. And all the other pieces around Houston. I thought Houston ran the ball well last week against Arizona. And yeah, the Raiders are playing the Texans defense, But are the Texans really going to try after the third quarter? Like, you would think the Raiders could put up a couple garbage points, so 38 is interesting because it could be like 31-3 and you still lose. But I will take the Texans minus 14.5. I know that you should play the Raiders, but I'm not going to do it. The Raiders might be the worst team I've ever seen in my life. So I'm not going to bet on the Raiders at any point, at any time. You're not going to make me do it. And the Texans are just too good defensively, and they're at home. And they still have stuff to play for, the division crown included. So the Texans will at least take this serious for 3 quarters. The question will be, can the Raiders get some garbage points and make this one push to the over? I will say yes for the fun of the game, for the love of the game. Then we've got Sunday Night Football. It is the game of the week. The New England Patriots are at the Baltimore Ravens. This game was flexed into Sunday Night Football. Drake May at Lamar Jackson. Patriots coming off a devastating loss where they were up 21-0, 24-7 against Josh Allen and the Bills, and they let it slip. They let the sweep slip through their fingertips, but they're still playing for the division. This game doesn't really matter a lot for the Patriots. It actually matters a lot more for the Ravens. The only thing it really does matter is the Patriots are still fighting for the number 1 seed, but Denver does have to slip up quite a bit in order for that to take place. Now, if Jacksonville were to beat Denver, then all of a sudden New England's motivation kind of goes through the roof. But the thing for me is the injuries to New England make this game a conversation. I think this spread is flat out wrong. I think it should be the reverse. Baltimore as a 7-7 team that is highly flawed and has been up and down all year is a 3-point favorite over the 11-3 Patriots. And New England has been the better team all year. New England, to me, has the better quarterback, the better coach. I think they're the more consistent offense. The only questionable part about the Patriots right now is their injuries. Carlton Davis didn't participate at practice. Christian Ellis, one of their linebackers. Robert Spillane is very likely to be out. He didn't play last week. That's one that went under the radar. I thought he would play last week. He actually was, it's kind of interesting. He was in uniform, but he never played a snap. And now all of a sudden, he's walking around in a boot. So they're going to rest him for this game. Harold Landry didn't participate. But we've seen, Marcus Jones, Harold Landry, these guys that are on the injury report, Carlton Davis even very likely, who finished the game against the Bills. These guys are on the injury report, but very likely will play in the game. So that's kind of what's been happening on the Patriots. Wednesday, Thursday, they rest Harold Landry, and then they come back for the game. Milton Williams, though, is still out. Will Campbell, though, is still out. Those are 2 big injuries for the Patriots that played a role for Buffalo. When you're talking about the Ravens, Chidobe Awuzie didn't participate at corner, which is a little bit of something. Lamar, again, didn't participate on Wednesday. The only thing I can really say about that is it still indicates that maybe he's not 100%, because if he were, he would be fully participating at practice. Teddy Buchanan is, I think, very likely to be out, one of their starting linebackers. Roquan Smith didn't participate, and Ronnie Stanley didn't participate. Those are some pretty big names on the injury report for the Ravens. Now, I know a little bit less about the Ravens injury report, but I do feel like Ronnie Stanley and Roquan Smith have been out like the first day of the week pretty frequently. So Kyle Van Noy also didn't participate. He has a quad injury. Ronnie Stanley, ankle and knee. Roquan, knee. Those guys will probably all play, but I'm not 100% sure on that front. I think that they'll probably be good to go on Thursday and Friday. And the same thing for the Patriots. So that being said, I think this is the bet of the week. I think the Patriots are going to win this game. And I'm not just saying that through fandom or bias. I thought they would lose to the Bills. I was actually genuinely shocked that they were up 24-7, 21-0. I was genuinely shocked. I didn't think we were going to sweep Josh Allen. Okay? Last week, I think it came down to a lot of the things. The Bills, they have the best quarterback in the league. The Bills have one of the best O-lines, one of the best run games, and their defensive coach is very savvy at adjustments, and specifically against Josh McDaniels. The Ravens are super duper duper overrated, guys. The Ravens quarterback is overrated. He's sloppy. He's not playing his best. Lamar is not the player he was last year or the year previous this year. He hasn't been all year, right? The offensive line is not very good. Ronnie Stanley's beat up. Their guards are horrific. Their run game, Derrick Henry kind of semi-washed. Like, they still give him the ball 15 times. Mike Vrabel has kind of owned John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson over his years with the Titans. I think they'll have a good plan defensively. I think the Patriots in the back end of their defense can hang with Zay Flowers, with Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, Carlton Davis. There's not a lot of legitimate threats in the passing game. And I don't think that Lamar is currently playing like Josh Allen, where he can elevate these kind of not great receivers. Other than Zay Flowers, no one scares me in the passing game. So if the Patriots can slow down Derrick Henry enough, I could actually see this game going very similarly to the Bills game, except the Patriots actually finish. I could see the Patriots running up to a lead, and then the Ravens kind of fighting back, and then the Patriots finishing the game. That's kind of how I would see the game, actually. I think that the Patriots are going to be able to throw the ball because the Ravens don't have a very good pass rush. And yes, the Ravens have a secondary, but even, with their secondary, there's going to be so much time for Drake May. I just don't really see how he's not making these plays, especially because it's not going to snow. It will be cold, but it's not going to snow. And Drake May has shown that precipitation, rain against the Raiders, snow against the Bills has affected him in these games. Rain against the Bucs. It's another time that it rained. So the precipitation has affected Drake May a bit. But in all other games, he's literally been the most accurate quarterback in the world. So I think that will return here. The Patriots are getting a little something going on the ground with Travion Henderson. I think that will continue against the Ravens, who are a mediocre run defense. I think you can run the ball on them. I just think in many ways, the Ravens are extremely overrated. And I could be wrong. I think everyone is... This is like the Chiefs. Everyone is waiting for the Chiefs from last year. Everyone's waiting for the Chiefs. There were 6-point favorites against the Chargers. A beat-up Chargers offensive line. They couldn't even beat the Chargers, guys. And they outright lost. I think it's similar for the Ravens. Everyone saw them beat the Bengals, but they only put up 17 offensive points against a Cincinnati team that can't stop a nosebleed. So... I would take the Patriots, and because of the injuries defensively for New England, I will take the over 48. I think New England scores in the 30s, and I think they win as a dog. Monday Night Football, 46 is the total, 6.5 is the spread. I will take San Francisco to win by a touchdown. This is tricky, though. Phillip Rivers wasn't as bad as people think on Sunday against Seattle. He played very Peyton Manning-like football in 2015, where Peyton could not throw the ball, but he would just quickly make quick decisions, decipher at the line of scrimmage, get the team into the right play, and kind of audible and check his way into production. The Niners offense, even without Ricky Pearsall, if he doesn't play, which he probably won't, I still think it's going to be able to move the ball here. No Sauce Gardner, no Charvarius Ward, very beat-up cornerback position of the Colts. I think simplifies their secondary. I do think they're susceptible at linebacker in coverage, and I don't think that the Colts have a very good pass rush. It's okay. It's not great. I don't think it's good enough to be able to overwhelm the 49ers offensive line that I think is kind of underrated in the pass game. I also think the Colts have been taken advantage of in the run game in previous weeks. I think the Niners will find ways to get some CMC production. I think this is a big CMC George Kittle game. And I think both of them produce in the middle of the field by moving the ball. I love what I saw from Brock Purdy against Tennessee. I thought he was moving really, really well. And this could be a primetime Monday night game where Brock Purdy finally plays well. Brock Purdy has not played very well on Monday Night Football throughout his career. He kind of needs to break that streak. I think it's coming. Now, what does make me a little nervous is the Niners defense. The Niners defense has not had a great time stopping the run. And I do think if they can't stop the run, then Phillip Rivers will have some success, because if they're overcompensating to stop the run, I do think it makes your quarterback's life that much easier, and he should be able to create some quick throws and quick screens. I do think the Niners have a pretty talented secondary, but their problem is their ability to hold up front. The Colts have a clear advantage on their offensive line against the Niners defensive line. So I do think the over is the play. At 46, I think a 27-20 type of game feels about right in a dome, a perfect setting for Brock Purdy and the Niners offense. And I do think the Niners, even without Ricky, are one of the top 5 offenses in the league, with Kyle Shanahan calling plays and a healthy Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. So I think they're going to be able to score high 20s, low 30s, coupled with the fact that their defense might have problems with the Colts offensive line and Jonathan Taylor. I think that pushes this game to around 27-20, 31-24, somewhere in that range. So I will take the over 46. I will take the Niners by around a touchdown. I think this line is pretty accurate. I think they win by like 7 to 10 points. There it is, guys. Thank you for watching. It's Mitch. Hope you enjoyed all of my picks. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.